Update 11.2 has just released, and it starts the Italian destroyers early access. Of course, I don't recommend actually participating in the gambling and spending money on soon-to-be tech tree ships. So instead, I would recommend spending your time on the Pan-Asian cruisers that finally are available for free to get the tier 10, which is really nice that we can finally play those. I hope that they're not going to be too oppressive with the smoke and HE spam, but I guess we'll just have to see this update. The other major parts of this patch is the new Clash of Courage event, Savage Battles, and visual enhancements, and some really significant updates to some of the bugs and issues the game has seen in the past few weeks. I hope that they actually function. We'll get to that in a little bit though. As far as the playstyle of these new Italian destroyers, I'm really not sure what they're supposed to do. They have very short range guns with not very good reloads and sap and HE. So the sap definitely can hurt, but the lack of range, the tier 10 is in that 9-kilometer base range, and it's really going to hurt them in their ability to impact the game, since the especially high tier games are so passive these days. Not having gun range really does hurt a ship's ability to impact the battle. The torpedoes do have some decent range though. However, they do seem quite slow and low damage. I don't know if they're going to be that effective. It seems like it would just be better to play some of the more traditional destroyers in the game these days. However, you do get that fuel smoke, the full speed smoke screen that the Italian ships are known for, and that's probably going to enable some hit and run style tactics with these ships, but I feel like they're going to be quite difficult to play, and I don't see them really shaking up the meta too much. But I have been wrong before about some of these new ships, and I hope I am, because these seem to be kind of a boring line to me that's going to be very difficult to play. They compare these ships to the playstyle of a Paulo Emilio. However, the Paulo has fast, extremely hard-hitting torpedoes, where these torpedoes are much weaker in their speed and damage output, but they do get some increased range. The other real big problem here is that the standard firing range doesn't exceed 10 kilometers, and you can't upgrade that range using an upgrade slot. I'm assuming the commander skill to increase the range of your destroyer's guns will still work, but no range mod slot, much like the Khabarovsk and the Russian tier 10 premium ship now, or special ship. That said, I have not played these at all yet, so it's not really fair for me to judge them without playing them first, so keep that in mind. They are likely much better than what I am saying here. They're in early access, and definitely try to do the free daily bundles as well as get as many free tokens as you can. I think it's very much worth participating in the early access free parts. I don't think it's worth doing the daily bundles for doubloons or spending extra doubloons on potential random bundles. I don't think that's a very good thing to participate in. If you happen to get the tier 9 in the very first random bundle, obviously go for it. That's 1,000 doubloons for a tier 9 ship. That's an amazing value. But if you don't see it in that first bundle, don't start spending doubloons. It's a waste of doubloons to be gambling away on that when you could get a premium account, or for just a few of these random bundles, even 5 to 10 random bundles out of 60, keep in mind, you're getting enough for a really good mid to high tier premium ship that you're guaranteed to get, not just a random chance at a tier 9 that will soon be in the tech tree. Make sure to participate in the Clash of Courage event. There are 4 Italian commanders with 6 points each and some unique patches. A nice little free reward for just playing through the game. These commanders could be very useful on some of your lower tier existing Italian cruisers or battleships, or even to help kickstart your Italian destroyer grind once they release in a couple months. And finally, the Pan-Asian cruisers have released, and I'm looking forward to playing them. There's some interesting ships here. I think the tier 10 looking a lot like an Austin could be interesting. as well as the tier 9 getting actually the secondaries off of the Montana and the Ohio. I haven't seen those turrets really anywhere else, which is pretty cool looking. But we'll see how they play out. Smoke plus HE is always a recipe for passive play, forcing people to play even further back, which is not something I'm a huge fan of. But we'll see how horrible they are to play against, or maybe they're not as good as I have been thinking, and that's my hope. I hope they're not going to force the game to be even more passive than they already are. You of course get smoke screens, defensive fire, torpedo reload boost on some long-range deep-water torpedoes. The Pan-Asian destroyers of course have those deep-water torps that don't hit destroyers, but they hurt when you eat them from a cruiser or a battleship. So very, very good torpedoes, assuming you're aiming at battleships and cruisers. And with this level of HE DPM, I don't think destroyers are going to be looking to get too close to you, that's for sure. Savage battles will also be returning in this update, again on the same flooded city map, I believe. And it's a really interesting kind of free-for-all game mode where there's 4 teams, each with 3 ships. So there's potential for third parties to come in your engagements when you're fighting a different team to really spice things up. Personally, I didn't actually find this mode too enjoyable, but that's probably because I'm not a destroyer main. I tend to enjoy the bigger ships just a little bit more. Of course, much like a battle royale, there is a shrinking circle, and if you're caught outside it, your ship is going to lose HP and eventually be sunk, hopefully leading to chaotic close-range engagements. I don't remember the last Savage Battle event, but reinforced bows are in this one. I don't remember if it was in the last one, but what it means is when you ram an enemy ship, you will take much less damage while causing a bunch to the enemy ship, which I think is a unique idea for a very arcadey, free-for-all style game mode. As far as the ships that are available, they're very extreme versions of tech tree destroyers at tier 10. They all have different abilities, whether they're focused on guns or torpedoes, but they are very extreme. They'll be much faster, much more maneuverable. The torpedoes will hit harder. They'll do much faster speeds. It is a very chaotic game mode and can be a lot of fun. I personally got a little tired of it. I enjoyed the Dirigible Derby last patch a lot, so I'll probably take a look at this and maybe have myself a really good experience, much like I did in Dirigible Derby. However, I am sad to see Dirigible Derby go. I had a ton of fun brawling it out, and I really enjoyed the attempt and effort that I thought was successful to promote brawling close quarters engagements instead of everyone just kind of sitting back and camping. Also keep in mind, there's a free 1 day of premium account in this update patch notes, so head on over there and pick it up. It's a nice free reward for just looking at the patch notes. Now here is one of the biggest parts of the update, a change to game mechanics. And this I have had a tough time understanding. I don't know if that's because I'm just a little bit tired and waking up still today, or if this hasn't been explained particularly well. But they're changing the way spotting range works, and as I understand it, it seems like spotting range means the range at which your ship is able to see. So that's this giant triangular section where your ship's vision essentially is. So if somebody shoots within this vision range and their gun range reaches your ship and there's line of sight here, you will spot them. However, if there was an enemy ship, let's say a battleship with really long range, outside of this massive triangle, and it shot, and it had enough range to hit you, but you didn't have enough range on your vision, you wouldn't spot it, even if you had line of sight, because your ship would not have enough vision range. I believe what they're changing is this vision range, allowing for everyone to be spotted more consistently and to spot others more consistently by increasing this spotting range. So this to me doesn't read like a massive nerf to the concealment and firing ranges of ships. I understood it as that previously, and I believe I am wrong. or I was wrong, that it is only to do with how the vision of your ship interacts with other ships. So what this means, as I understand it, is that each tier is going to have their own standard vision range, how large this vision triangle can reach, this maximum distance. So at tier 8, the example they give is of a North Carolina. You're starting at 30 kilometers base, but they do say your upgrades can impact this. North Carolina, of course, can fit range mod and a spotter plane, giving it more than 30 kilometers of range. This would not really work too well if it was capped at 30 kilometers of spotting, because then there would be ships outside of this vision range that you would have enough gun range to hit, but your game would not render because your ship would be capped in how far it can see. This is good that they're taking this into account. So their example they give on North Carolina is that when you equip the spotter plane and the extra range mod, the calculations will give you around 40 kilometers of vision instead of the standard 30. This will allow you to use the spotter plane effectively, but of course, North Carolina shells are so slow at those ranges, it's going to be a little hard to hit things. This is how I have understood these changes to game mechanics. However, I could be wrong. I think I may have misread some things or made some assumptions based on this post. So comment down below what you have interpreted these changes to be, and let's talk about it down there. If I'm wrong, I will definitely be pinning someone who explains and corrects me on this, because I don't want to spread some misinformation on a pretty important mechanic that is spotting and concealment. Always nice to see there are more visual improvements coming to the game. So the main battery and secondary battery guns are going to look better when firing, which is always cool to see. Depth charges hitting the water and islands has been changed. Local weather effects on hotspot north, Greece, and islands of ice have been added. Aircraft explosions on the deck when aircraft carriers are destroyed is going to be added as well. Obtaining a super container apparently now has a new visual effect for you to get a bunch of useless flags. Won't that be amazing? Rain has also been added, and hopefully that's going to look a little better, since the storms currently look a little funny with some just pasted on visual effects over the camera. Smoke for camouflages and ships participating in events has also been improved. I would assume this is going to change some of these event smokes to keep more in line with the artistic style of the event. For example, in Savage Battle, we can see the art style is quite different from the main game, and the normal smokes wouldn't fit quite as well into this art style. So I would assume this means that the smokes and some of the visual effects are going to keep more in line with this style. If this is true, I would also guess that some of the space camos, and if we ever get another space event, that we would see similar changes to smoke and visual effects. On to the Armory, it looks like they have finally added 6 years of Warships containers in for coal, meaning you can actually complete the 6 years of World of Warships if you haven't done so already. It's kind of steep at 2,000 coal, depending on how many of that 6 years of World of Warships collection you have yet to get, but it seems like there are decent rewards with a super container, a few gift containers, and a flag coming out of that event. So if you're close or you just want to complete it, here's your opportunity to do so. Another alternate camo as well for the Ragnar added to the Armory in exchange for 10 ranked tokens. There are a few new test ships as well being added for super testers, community contributors to be playing, so don't be surprised if you end up seeing a few of these ships out there while playing. There's some new balance changes to some of these super ships. I will be honest with you guys, I have not been playing super ships at all this patch. Been a little too focused on the dirigible derby and having a good time there. But it looks like there's a few buffs coming to some of these super carriers, giving them a bit more striking power in their tactical squadron, while also reducing the plane's HP pool. And I think one of the more important buffs that is coming is this Super Destroyer Yamagiri. It really didn't play that much different from a Shimakaze with worse concealment. It wasn't very good at all. So they've added a 3 salvo burst from the main guns, giving you some pretty good punching power out of the guns, since of course the Japanese destroyers have a slow reload, but some very high alpha damage HE salvos. So 3 of those could really mess up an enemy destroyer, and it does make this ship a little bit more unique compared to the Shimakaze. The Zorky is getting a small nerf to its salvo fire, the Annapolis getting a slightly better reload up to that of the base Des Moines, and the Satsuma is getting a nerf. That's pretty predictable since that ship, I think, is the better of the 2 battleships, at least in random battles, where long-range firepower is valued a little higher over the secondaries and slightly better armor of the Hanover, which is getting a reload buff, so it might be a really good option again with a faster reload. However, with the Preussen having such an awesome reload as well, I don't know, maybe the Hanover's a slightly worse Preussen, even though it does get that 32mm of overmatch and potential of having longer range secondaries when activating those special instructions. Onto a giant list of other changes and improvements. We're not going to go through all of these, but I'll talk about the main ones, and that really starts with the ability to research consecutive tech tree ships in a single action. This is a massive quality of life improvement for those of you like me who don't actually regrind our tech tree ships to gain research points for the research bureau ships, and instead reset the entire line and then free XP our way back up, and then play each ship in one co-op battle to collect those tokens. One of the biggest issues I have with the way this game functions right now is that shells are invisible sometimes, so seemingly they've done some more work to fix this. This has been a problem for quite some time, and it's just speculation, but I would guess it has something to do with the incredibly old game engine not really being able to handle some of these new ships with such high fire rates. Tons of secondaries coming out of ships like the Schlieffen, and ships like the Smolensk was one of the original offenders, Minotaur as well, and of course these new Pan-Asian cruisers aren't going to be helping things. So I hope that whatever they did actually do fix this issue, because it's very difficult to make decisions and play this game when you're not given the visual feedback of someone actually firing on your ship. They've also said they're fixing a bug where a ship would disappear from view for a second when exiting a smoke screen. I have noticed this a little bit when someone is spotted and then either entering or exiting. There's some weird issues with detection around smoke screens and the animation of fading in and fading out of vision, which has been a little bit annoying, but I think it's a small issue. But I am really glad to see them looking into these and trying to make the quality of life of the game a little bit better. Frequency changed from 2 ticks to 1 for checking gun firing readiness when using the sequential fire mode. I hope this is going to help with the massive bug that is being in normal fire mode but having the reload of the sequential fire mode, which I actually got on the Conda, which was pretty annoying. I'll be honest with you, having a 40 or so second reload for a single salvo out of a cruiser is certainly not an enjoyable experience. So hopefully that will be addressed in this update. And last but not least, because I really didn't want this to happen, information about submarines testing will be announced in a later special article. They're coming back, unfortunately, and from what I've seen, it seems like they're going to be much more powerful. Wargaming was not happy with the efficiency of the previous round of submarines, and you know what that means. Massive buffs and a pretty annoying, frustrating class to play against is only going to be worse. I do hope I'm wrong, but that is what I believe about these new submarines. That is what I think is important in the new update. Again, let me know about the changes to the spotting and detection system if I'm right here. I really wanted to understand this. I took quite a bit of time to read over this update, and I'm still not sure if I'm correct in how I've read the changes to the spotting and detection mechanics here. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope we all enjoy update 11.2.